Podcast Answer Man, episode 89. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Answer Man. Cliff Ravenscraft here, and today I'm going to be sharing some rather sad news about a company I was almost affiliated with rather closely, and also going to be giving my response to a recent blog entry that once again tries to claim that podcasting is dead. Anyway, where do we go from here? How do I start this off? Well, first of all, let me explain to you about this company that I was once affiliated with that has some rather sad news to share. And kind of looking back, I'm just kind of glad that I decided when I did not to affiliate myself with this company. So let's see, how do I start this off? Because one of the things I want to do here is I don't want to ruffle any more feathers than I need to ruffle. In fact, I don't think that any feathers need ruffling. Feathers seem to get themselves ruffled a whole lot without my helping things along. But sometimes if I'm not careful, I tend to ruffle further, I guess. Anyway, I don't know if I even needed any of that. Good thing I don't do post-production. Otherwise, you would have never noted that I just said all that stuff. But anyway, moving forward is where we're going. And we're going to talk about this company called Podango. Now, for those of you who have been longtime listeners of GSPN.TV, you may recognize the name Podango. And especially for those of you listening to the Podcast Answer Man all this time, you probably will remember it from about, I guess, just over 1 year ago. Back in September of 2007, I announced that I was going to be going into podcasting and new media full-time as a career, and that I would basically, my original intent was that I was going to go into podcasting, mainly consulting work, as my primary source of income, and that to help supplement that income, there would be podcast equipment sales, and then the third area or third stream of income, which probably would be hopefully sufficient, or substantial, at least nothing to sneeze at. But I figured that there would be some money that could probably be generated through bringing in some kind of sponsorship or advertising revenues from the content that I produced. And because I wanted to get so involved and so, get the name out there and build a client database and a base of clients to work with on a regular basis, I decided that at that point in time, I was not interested in doing the legwork of going out and finding sponsors, going out and finding advertisers, and then convincing them of the worth of placing their ad revenue in my shows. And the reason why I didn't want to do that is because, well, first of all, I already had experienced that when I was doing podcasting as a hobby for the 2 years prior. And so I knew how difficult it is. And sure, I knew I could probably pull some of that stuff off, but it was actually a secondary thought as far as a priority for me. I really felt that when I made this decision to go into podcasting full time, that it would really be me making a primary income out of consulting and equipment sales. And that, if the content that I produced brought in any income, then that would be excellent. And I expected it to bring in some. So enter in the name Podango, and of course I looked at many other folks out there too. I really didn't look too far into Podshow, which is now Mevio, and the only reason is nothing against them personally, but I did look at a contract with them a long time ago, and there was just so much in there that I didn't like, and I'm not going to share any of that. I did agree to a non-disclosure on their contract, but there was enough in there that I didn't like that just I didn't even want to work around and try to renegotiate. it wasn't for me at the time. And I guess I'll have to admit that back when I looked at it, this was still a hobby as well. But when I decided to go at it full time, I really didn't think that was the route for me to go. And it really came down to two different places that I was looking to turn to possibly bring in some revenue from this thing. One of them was my good friend over there at Raw Voice or Blueberry, and his name is Todd Cochran. And I considered talking to those folks about the possibility of quote unquote monetizing my content with them. And so they were one company that I was considering looking into. And then when I went to PodCamp Boston, it's actually PodCamp Boston 2, I actually ran into a guy named Doug Smith over there at Podango, or from Podango. He happened to be the president and one of the co-founders of Podango. And Doug was a great guy. He is a great guy. He really is. And I can just tell you, he's got a genuine heart, and they really seem to be more along the lines of, they were more on the business oriented side of things. And of course, let's just say there was a lot of appealing things about my discussions with them. And to be honest with you, I was just looking to find something that would bring in, some ad revenue to some of this content, so that I quote unquote didn't have to worry about it. Now, I got their contracts, and again, I had agreed to, non-disclosure information about their contracts as well. So I won't give you any disclosure of basically what that contract was all about. But I will tell you that there was only a few things, a handful of things that I didn't like about the original contract that if I were going to go with it, I would have negotiated. And in fact, I talked with Doug over a course of actually a couple months before making any decisions. And I almost made my decision. It was nearly exactly 1 year ago today. Matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it was exactly 1 year ago today that I made the decision to not sign with them, that I actually called them up and said, I'm really sorry. I don't want you to feel like I was just spinning your wheels. This actually is something that's been heavy on my heart, but this isn't the right thing for me. Now, let me explain to you some things that there goes my Twitter message. And been out all day. We'll be here all day tomorrow. Call me when you want to chat, or Skype Geek News Central. And I'm actually talking about a tweet here that just came in from Todd Cochran, because I asked him if he'd be interested in joining me for a chat. So let me send him a direct message. I'm going to pause real quick. Okay, so I sent him a direct message over there and to see what's going on, to see if he's available in about 15 minutes. We'll find out. But anyway, one of the things that I was going to negotiate in my contract was I was really concerned about this moving over to Podango and their network. One of the things that was quite straightforward was the fact that they were going to try to include my content into, not into other networks. They were actually going to bring me on as a premium or premier or whatever network partner. So mine would be at a kind of a top level partnership with them. But they wanted to also maintain RSS feeds on their site that were not my own. For example, I have all of my own all of my own feeds for all of my own shows. And I remember this was a huge issue back when I was working with TalkShoe. If you went to my quote unquote TalkShoe page, there were RSS feeds on the site. And it took me forever to negotiate the right deal to get those RSS feeds removed, because I didn't want people to come to my TalkShoe page, which for me was just a service that I used for live shows. But when people came there was very much a feeling that if you come to the site, there's a little thing that says subscribe here. And I had some folks that were confused by this, and I call this feed confusion. And I'm getting a really weird noise in the background. Tell you what, let me go close my window real quick. Sorry about that. I just, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, in my headphones, I started to hear, my compressor. I have this gate on it, which allows no noise to come in until after it breaks a certain threshold. And I just started to hear the static in the background, and sure enough, it was the window was open, and it's pouring down, raining outside. So I was actually hearing the rain come through. So anyway, sorry about that. There's this thing called feed confusion. So people would come to my TalkShoe page, and they would actually subscribe to my podcast using the TalkShoe feed, which of course TalkShoe does not get any of my real content, all of my really high quality audio content. In fact, even if I did put all my high quality, great content on there, they certainly would have never got any of my video content if I would have actually wanted to release a video episode in any of my podcasts and stuff like that. So basically what I had to do is consistently, I had to record little audio recordings that said, hey, if you're getting this podcast episode, that means that you're subscribed to a TalkShoe feed. We want to let you let me explain to you what, how you may have come across the feed and how you've subscribed to this show. What I wanted you to do is please unsubscribe from this feed and go to gspn.tv/subscribe. Find the show that you want, or actually the all-inclusive feed is great, and subscribe there using that feed. And so I would have to release these in there until finally I negotiated a way to have those, had the folks over at TalkShoe hard code my own personal site without any RSS feeds. And once they removed those, it was great. There's no more feed confusion. So that was one of the issues I was going to have with Podango. One of the things that I was going to do is I was going to sign a 2-year contract with them. And after the 2 years, I wanted to make sure that, let's just say over the course of 2 years, I brought a lot of value to their network. I brought a lot of additional exposure to their network. But at the same time, I would have expected that they would have brought some exposure to my network of podcasts and stuff like that. And I wanted to make sure that any and all of my audience members that I had accumulated during that period of time that I was with them, I want to make sure that if I ever left Podango, that all of those subscribers were subscribed to my feeds, not Podango's feeds, but my feeds. Now, that's going to come into play here in just a little bit. But really, when it came down to it, there was something that was said right down at the wire. I mean, I was ready to start negotiating this contract, ready to sign off on it. And something just out of the blue happened in one last phone call. I mean, and I'm so glad that phone, especially today, with the news that came out just recently, I'm very thankful that phone call took place. And here's what it is. Let me first set up and tell you, at the time, I was producing about 10 podcasts. And this was a year ago. And so I had these 10 different shows that I was doing. There was the Weekly Loss podcast, the Heroes podcast. We were doing the Grey's Anatomy podcast, Private Practice podcast. I was doing the podcast Answer Man. I was doing My Crazy Life. I was doing About the Church and Help I Got a Mac and a couple other shows. So I had about 10 different podcasts. Now at that time, my big front runner, of course, was the Weekly Loss podcast with about 20 to 30,000 downloads per episode, which, depends on if the show is, in season or not. And then, of course, we had about 7,000 or 8,000 downloads of the Grey's Anatomy fan podcast at the time. And then, of course, my other shows were in the, couple, maybe 300, 400, 500 people downloading each of the other episodes that we produce. And no matter what new show I would launch, I was guaranteed that I'd have at least 350, 400 downloads as a result of people who are subscribed to the all-inclusive feed at the time. And so I shared all this information and I explained that, this audience is an extremely loyal audience and that it's kind of a network thing. We are our own network. And so Doug seemed very excited about this at first, but in this last phone call, he said something, and I'm certain that this is not included any kind of non-disclosure. This has nothing to do with that contract. But here is just a comment that he made that kind of really concerned me about signing with Podango at the time. And here's what he said. He said, Cliff, have you ever considered narrowing everything down to just 2 shows? Because I really see where we could bring the most value to you is if we could bring you the big sponsors, because that's who we're going after. You know, we want to go after the big corporate sponsors that are going to sign long-term lucrative contracts. And it's those kind of sponsors are get really excited when they see, you know, a targeted audience of 150,000 or so, or even 100,000 listeners. Have you ever considered, you know, kind of trimming down the number of shows that you do and really focus and work hard on getting your numbers up to the 100,000 on maybe 2 of your shows? And I will tell you that kind of, you know, I was not offended by that, but I was very concerned. Because here's the deal. While I won't tell you any percentages, I will tell you that the contract was all about the fact that oh, great. Todd says that he is going to be available in just a minute. I'm going to pause and respond to him real quickly. And I'm back again. All right, so that's exciting. I'm glad we'll be able to talk to Todd, and I'll explain how that'll fit in here in just a few minutes, and hopefully I'll just not forget to bring him in here in the next 15 minutes. So anyway, okay. So there was the contract is all about the fact that if they bring in a big corporate sponsor or a sponsor of any kind, the deal would be that I would get a certain percentage of all that income, and they would get a certain percentage of all that income. And here's the thing, though: if I brought in people like my own smaller time sponsors, if you will, something that brought in maybe $800 a month or whatever, then what would happen is I would get a percentage and they would still get a percentage. Now, of course, if I bring it in, my percentage that I keep is slightly higher. And again, I'm not going to go over the percentages, but I will tell you that it was definitely over and above the regular partner agreements that they have. It was for the network premium, premier, whatever they call those. It's the same thing that, you know, MommyCast and some other folks were signed with. So anyway, that's the deal that was going on. But here's what I took that very last conversation to say. It's like, Cliff, unfortunately, I'm saying this in such a way that we hope that if you join with us, and I'm not saying this is what Doug said, because I didn't ask Doug to clarify. I just got enough of a vibe to know that, yeah, you know what, let me rethink this here. So basically what I kind of came away with was, you know, Cliff, we're really hoping, you know, we really see your passion for podcasting. There's no question about that. I'm totally assuming some thoughts here. We totally get your zeal for podcasting, and we really believe that you have what it takes to make it in podcasting. We'd love to bring you on as a network partner because, well, it's only a win-win for us. I mean, it's not like I could do anything to hurt them at all. But it's only a win for me if they find me some sponsors, right? So basically it's almost as though I felt like they were interested in me coming there. And with this last little comment, it's like, listen, we're hoping that you'll get at least not your overall audience, because in fact, the comment actually says, you know, we believe that sponsors would see more value in 1 or 2 shows with 100 to 150,000, member audience than to have 10 shows with smaller audiences equaling 100,000. Or 10 shows with smaller audiences, however he said it. But anyway, what it sounded like to me is like, you know, just so you know, no promises. Let me just make sure that we're not over promising and under delivering. We hope that you can get up to that 100,000. That build those numbers is what I heard. and we might be, and that's where we're really going to come through and help you. And I felt like what was going to happen is, well, if they didn't feel like they were going to get the corporate sponsors, or if the corporate sponsors weren't going to get all excited about GSPN.TV content, then probably, the only kind of deals that I'm going to get are the ones that I negotiate, which then, of course, I have to give up a good deal of my income on. And so I thought to myself, you know what? It doesn't sound to me like they're interested in the low tens of thousands of listeners and in the thousands of listeners that I might have with some of my shows. And it's only when I get into the tens of thousands, you know what I'm saying? Or the 50,000, the 75,000, the 150,000. That's really what I felt like, that's where they felt like they were going to be able to help me. And anything smaller than that was not going to be that lucrative for either of us. And that's the way it came out. And so I decided at the last minute, regardless of the feed confusion, regardless of, some of the other stuff as far as where you have to put your content, for one thing, I didn't want their free hosting. I wanted to continue to keep my media on my servers. My media, my servers. And I just wanted them to be a distribution outlet of the content as far as getting the word out, pointing people to my stuff, and of course, the main gist of the contract, the deal, is to get me some sponsorship. And sure, I'll share some revenue with you if you find me some great stuff. I'm hoping you got a sales force out there. Well, I just wasn't feeling it, and especially when that last bit of conversation happened. And so with all of that said, I decided very early on, right at this time last year, just before the new year started, I called Doug up and I called the girl that was going to help me work on my transition over to their network, and I just called it off last minute. Says, I'm sorry, I can't sign this contract. And I really given a lot of thought, and it has a lot to do with the comment that you made about the focusing on just one or two shows and growing the numbers. And I said, I'm actually considering starting more shows. And in fact, I plan to start more shows. And here I am today. I have I think I have about 24 different podcasts that I produce today. And to be honest with you, my numbers of the Lost podcast, about the same as they were before. Of course, Lost hasn't really been back on a whole lot since then. Just a little bit of the rest of the last season. Season 4, and we maintained our numbers and grew a little bit, but not a whole lot. I expect that we'll grow a lot this season. Then, of course, the Grey's Anatomy show, I think we had added maybe another 1,000 listeners or so. Our smaller shows, the My Crazy Life, the Full-Time Moms, the Family from the Heart shows, now those shows have grown significantly as far as percentage-wise, but they're still in the low thousands. And upper, the upper of the 100, 800, 900 listener kind of range on some of the shows, some of them brand new. And so the thing is, though, is what happened was I got to the point where I said, you know what, if I'm going to bring in a sponsor and I have to give up any of my income, and this company's not going to bring me any corporate sponsors where I get any income, then why don't I just do this on my own? And then, of course, down the road, I finally realized it's like, you know what? I don't want to get advertisers for my show. It's too much work, as I said in the beginning. But then all of a sudden somebody asked me this question, Cliff, where do you want to be in 5 years from now? And the answer to that question was immediately, well, I'd love to make a living from producing content alone. Sure, I enjoy doing podcast consulting work, and I will continue to do it. And today, I still have to do it. It's the way the bills get paid here. And sure, I'll still continue to sell audio equipment. I think that I am the best source of audio podcasting equipment out there because you get everything you need when you call me. I mean, I go out of my way to try to make sure that you have every cable you need and stuff like that. And I have great pricing. I mean, it's just hands down. And that's why word of mouth is really getting out there. And I'm very busy throughout the week selling this equipment. So I recognize that. But I would love one day to just have, my income, the main source of my income, be from the content that I produce. Because when I turn this microphone on and I hit the record button, I come alive. I feel like me. And that's what I love the most. And somebody said, you take a step every day Make yourself a promise that you'll take a step every day to take you closer to that goal. And that's when it just all of a sudden struck me. Wow, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And so I started to really ramp up the quality, the quantity, and consistency of all of my shows. And I started to focus and pray about how do I make money from this. And it quickly came to me, it's not going to be through advertising. It's going to be through a premium content model or partial premium content where we'd give away a lot of content for free. Like, for example, this episode coming to you for free from the podcast Answer Man. But not every episode of this podcast is free anymore. In fact, I used to have a sponsor for this show, and I canceled that agreement. And I canceled it because I knew for a fact that if I get people to pay $10 a month for this show, that eventually this show has enough content in it to be worth $10 a month just on its own. And enough people would actually eventually sign up to become a plus member of gspn.tv just for this podcast alone, and it would outweigh what I was getting from my sponsorship eventually. And so I bit that bullet and I decided to go this route, and that's where I'm at. And I encourage you, if you're listening to this and you get any benefit from Podcast Answer Man, please become a Podcast Answer Man Plus member or a gspn.tv Plus member. Now, for $10 a month, you get access to all of my shows, every episode of every podcast that I produce. But there is some confusion I learned out there that some people think, well, I didn't want to pay the $10 a month because I don't want to feed where I'm getting all of your shows. Now, every individual show, all 24 different podcasts that I produce, all have their own plus feed. So if you become a gspn.tv plus member for $10 a month, you can just subscribe to the plus feed for Podcast Answer Man, and all you will get is every episode of the Podcast Answer Man. So I just want to clarify that for you out there. And trust me, just because you're not listening to all the other content, I really do believe that this podcast is worth the $10 a month in and of itself. But anyway, here is why I share all of that information. It is from a blog post made by Podango on their blog at InsidePodango.com, and it's from December 26, 2008 by Doug Smith. It says, here's what it says. We at Podango believe that you, our customers, are our most valuable asset. Given this belief, we have always done our best to be honest and forthright in our dealings with you. The current uncertainties of the financial market has affected many of us in this nation. I'm eventually going to learn how to read one of these days. As of this morning, Podango is no longer immune to its effects. Our ability to continue operations past the end of this year, 2008, is in question. We do not want any of you or any of your shows to be negatively affected by this uncertainty, and so we are encouraging you to begin taking all necessary steps to secure your data or begin moving to another hosting provider. On Monday, we will have a more definitive direction. As of today, the last day to move or secure your data is December 31st. Now, again, this is being written on December 26th, the day after Christmas. Here we go. RSS feeds will need to be redirected by this date as well. It is our hope that the events of the next few days will allow us to continue providing you a service based upon a subscription fee. Again, we will know more Monday, and you will be notified of any changes to the above plan as soon as we are made aware of them. We do apologize for the short notice during a time when many of you are very busy and didn't plan on spending this much time on your shows. We will have a link in the My Podango section of the podcaster's login page by Monday, which will allow you to redirect your RSS feeds off of the Podango feed to a new feed. Instructions will accompany that tool. Also Monday, we will provide you with alternatives for show hosting. Inactive accounts, those without recent uploads or downloads, may already have been deleted from our system. If you need to contact us, please email us. Again, I personally apologize for this notice of caution. We truly appreciate your business, Douglas G. Smith, President Podango. My friends, I am so sorry for all the folks who are on the Podango network. The two main concerns, if I would have signed with them, my two main concerns was RSS feed confusion, them having or owning some of my subscriber base. Looks to me like they have that one covered. It is possible to take and do some tooling and some reconfiguring and having those who are subscribed to the Podango feeds and have it forward all of those people over to your feed. That is if they're using iTunes. Not so easy for people who are subscribed using another means. So this tool that they've got working on, not going to help for the people who are subscribed using just regular RSS readers or maybe some other podcatching softwares. iTunes is not the only service out there that provides podcasting utilities. So, again, this is one of the things that I hated about the idea of putting any of my content relying and allowing people to subscribe to an RSS feed that was not my own. The other one, this is huge. Folks, listen to this. December 26th, you have until December 31st to remove your content. Do you guys know that I uploaded more than 650 episodes of content this year alone? If I were with Podango right now, I'd have to make sure that I was re-uploading 650 episodes of my content up to another media host and going in and updating 650 blog entries with new links to that new data in another podcast or in my WordPress entries. Not only that, but that's for my Plus member site. Now there are some podcasts that are actually linked to in at least two WordPress sites, and some of them, like Podcast Answerman, these free episodes go into the podcastanswerman.com site, the gspn.tv site, and the gspn.tv/plus access site. So that's a lot of updating, and that has to be done, and RSS is forwarded from December 26th to the 31st. Yikes. Oh, man. And so my heart goes out to the people that are with Podango. My heart goes out to Doug Smith. I hate to see the fact that they're going through this, but wow. All I can do is I can say, thank goodness I had that feeling, and not that I felt like something like this might happen. For me, I just felt like maybe I just wasn't going to have the audience that would get them motivated to go out, or to allow them to have something to get corporate sponsors motivated to buy advertising on my shows. So anyway, I guess looking back, I made the right decision, and of course now we are moving in a direction that looks, obviously I've got 198 GSPN.TV Plus members who are paying $10 a month for my content at this point. And of course my goal was to have 500 by the end of this year. Looks like we'll probably end up getting the end of the year with 200, but having 200 people sign up in the first year, and actually just in the last couple months, it's pretty amazing. So, I feel good about the decision that I made, and obviously I'm happy that I made that decision. So what are these people over here at Podango, these people that are, have been using that free service, those RSS feeds and all that other stuff, what are they going to do? And I'd love to talk to Todd Cochran right now. I'm going to put you on hold and see if I can get him on the line here. All right, everybody, I am back, and I have on the phone with me, or on Skype, I guess I should say, Todd Cochran from over at Raw Voice and also Blueberry. And Todd, welcome to the Podcast Answer Man.
Well, Cliff, I know it's late your time because it's late my time, and thanks for having me on the show. And I wish it could be under better circumstances, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just sharing with my audience just how my heart is going out to all the folks who have basically shows hosted with Podango, and even my heart goes out to Doug Smith, a great guy. and just hate to see this economy hitting them and impacting them in this way. But
I'm sure there's a lot of podcasters who are on vacation, been spending time with their families. I'd probably take a 4-day weekend. They're going to get home tomorrow night and open their inbox, and I'm sure there are hundreds of podcasters who are just going to flip. They probably have no idea what this bombshell is about to hit them.
Exactly. Well, obviously I've already set the stage here of some of my concerns about, hosting your content with somebody else, basically putting it on their servers when you have a signed contract kind of thing, and RSS feed confusion where basically if you're participating in their network and they're throwing up RSS buttons all over the place, you never know who subscribed to what and things like that, and those were really big concerns of mine as a podcaster, especially if I'd maybe just had one show, I think I might be able to deal with it. But with the number of shows that I currently produce, trying to keep all of that stuff straight just seemed to be such a hassle, and for me it turned out being that I just wanted to stick on my own. But I understand that you guys over there at Raw Voice are working on something, even into the wee hours here of the night, that you guys are planning something to maybe help some of the folks who are, obviously, the announcement said you'll want to make arrangements by December 31st to find a new home for your data.
Yep. Well, I guess I should preface this, Cliff, with, first of all, I guess the team at Raw Voice is really, we are sorry to read the news about Podango's potential ceasing operations by the end of the year. We've always believed that competition is good and encourage innovation and efficiency in the space. The loss of Podango services, potential loss of services, I should say that, potential loss of services and innovative capabilities are going to be really a loss to the new media community. We also salute, of course, the president of Podango, Douglas Smith, and being up front, making the announcement to the podcasters, encouraging the podcasters to immediately seek new hosting services. Now, I had just gotten off here in Hawaii, we'd had a island-wide blackout. So I was kind of clueless to what was going on, and I called Angelo this morning. He's our lead developer at Raw Voice, and I said, hey, what's going on? Is everything cool to the site? Any issues? Any major any major support issues come up? He says, no, but have you heard? And I said, no, heard what? And he backfilled me, and so I said immediately we need to basically get the rest of the guys on the phone. So we were able to round up, I guess, about 90% of the team. And, our concern, our goal, the way we've always operated is we always want to make sure that the podcasters are taken care of. And we worry about the podcasters first and the bottom line last. And I said to the guys, what can we do immediately to help all these folks in trouble? I said, I can't imagine coming off of Christmas vacation and having this dropped in my lap. I think I would lose my mind and not know where to start. So what I instructed Angelo to do today was to essentially program up a script that would allow us to interrogate or basically read a person's RSS feed, take all of the enclosure data. Now, if the show has 100 enclosures and all of the media in it, what basically we're going to do is we're building a script on our site to be able to take that data and suck it in. We're just going to we're going to download every one of those pieces of media, and we're going to drop them up on our CDN cloud, our content delivery network, with the company we work with. And then we would provide the podcaster with a list of new URLs of where all their media is at. And from that point, we say, hey, you got 30 days to either decide whether or not you're going to put your own blog up, whether or not you're going to want to come over and host with us and publish with us, or whatever we can do. Just the main thing is give you 30 days to kind of to get a sigh of relief. No charge to them. It's compliments of Raw Voice, and basically make it easy for them at least to get the media moved. Now, because many of those shows over there, do not already have their second point of presence that is their main point of presence, we can enable some functions within the website. We'll basically we'll be able to read their RSS feed, and we'll be able to replicate what they have currently at Podango, so long as all that data is in their RSS feed. Replicate what they have over there, and then if they have a domain name, we can get that pointed over to a custom homepage for them and get them set up, and so at least they're up and running in a very, very short period of time. That is the end goal. Then if they decide, 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now or even next week that they have had time to kind of absorb all this and make a determination that, yeah, I'd rather go this way with my show versus this way, we just wanted to extend that olive branch to at least have them stay up and online as long as possible. Obviously, we'd love to have them as hosting customers. If they choose to stay, that's great. If they don't, at least we know that we've been able to help those that are in need out. I don't know how many people are out there are affected, but we basically made within like a 2-minute period, made a decision. This is the right thing to do. Now I know Angelo is not done with that code. I think it's 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that there on the East Coast, or maybe 1 o'clock in the morning. So I think he's went to bed. But my goal is I'm going to be up about 5 a.m. here in Hawaii, which would be about 11, actually 10 o'clock on the East Coast, and then we're going to have a little group meeting to see where we're at on that code. And then hopefully by about noon Eastern, my goal is to have a new banner put up on the website along with step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. This is what you can do to get yourself moved and get up and online, and at least starting that recovery period, because Podango has said, let us know immediately what your new RSS feed is. And so that is a key so that people don't lose subscribers, that they let Podango what that new RSS feed is going to be so that they can ship them, put that redirect link in there, so when iTunes queries the feed, it says, oh, the new feed is here. Because if these folks are stuck with feeds that go dead, then they're going to have to go to Apple, and in iTunes they're going to have to tell them, hey, my RSS feed has changed, and it could take a week to, that has to be done manually on Apple's side.
Yep.
And it's the holidays.
Yeah.
So they're probably understaffed.
Yeah, not only that, but when it's not holidays, the staffing department in the podcast center, I don't think it's that highly staffed anyway.
I don't think so.
So
I don't think it is.
It takes forever just to have any kind of service done on your podcast and the directory listing there, no matter what time of the year. But and you can probably tell me this better than I would know. But as far as I'm concerned, with this feed confusion, a lot of people always say, well, you can always do the redirect. I just want to remind folks out there that Apple does not own podcasting, and so not everybody uses iTunes. So this is one of those things to be thinking of when you actually decide, where does my RSS feed live? Who owns that? How much control do I always maintain over my RSS feed? It's something to think about, because like you guys said it, and like Podango is going to have, there's some scripting that can be done to do this thing called a redirect inside the RSS feed that tells iTunes that the feed needs to be changed in the subscription. But
it's only iTunes.
But it's only iTunes. And there are a lot of people who are, believe it or not, a lot of people are subscribed to podcasts using Google Reader, Net Vibes, and all these other places. And no, those are going dead.
Yep. Those podcasters, the first thing they should do immediately is put up a new post on Podango said, we are moving.
Yes.
You will find out where I am going to be by going here. But if they don't know where that here is, how can they make that post?
That is exactly correct.
So my suggestion to those folks out there, and as much as I have reservations about FeedBurner, immediately sign up for a FeedBurner account. Tell everyone this is where the new feed is going to be. Attach that RSS feed at Podango to that FeedBurner feed. Then you get everyone in the mindset, it's moving, it's going here. This is where the new feed will be. At least it will be in their reader when they go up to look at, oh, something has changed. I need to change this URL in in the RSS client that I have to this FeedBurner feed. Now, it may still point back at Podango, but at least when they get moved, they can update it to where they have moved to, so that at least now they have control of their RSS feed. That's one of the features we offer, is that we never want to have control of anybody's RSS feed. We want them to go over and get a FeedBurner account and have them set that up, or wherever they may be, if it's on their own domain. Make sure that they control that, so that when they want to move somewhere, if they're on Blueberry hosting with us, and 2 months later say, "Oh man, I need to go somewhere else," they can move, and it's transparent.
Yes.
And all they have to do is change that, go into their account at FeedBurner, change the RSS out from what it was to what it is, and you don't lose anybody.
Exactly. It's one of many people have reservations of FeedBurner, but it's one of the reasons why in all my consulting work, every consulting client I have, they have a FeedBurner account, as well as all 24 of my own podcasts. All of them have FeedBurner accounts, and I host everything on my own site, so I have my own RSS feeds. But I do love the transparency. I've obviously moved my domains around so that right. It's been very helpful for me. But again, I just want to point out to folks, if you happen to have a Podango account, and I know a couple hundred of our listeners do, what you will want to do is, even if you get this transparent RSS feed redirect for iTunes working, you're still going to want to release even if it's a short 5-minute audio episode or a 5-minute video episode of your podcast, saying, "Hey, let me just explain to you what's happened here, and let you know if you have any questions. If all of a sudden within the next 2 weeks, however often your shows are, if you notice that you're not getting new updates, email me personally. Here's how you contact me. We will get you set back up."
But Cliff, here's the fact of the matter.
Yep.
People are going to lose subscribers.
Yes.
There's usually just no if and buts around it. People can do what they can do, but people may not load their newsreader. And all of a sudden, boom, they're gone, and that's tough. It's really tough. If it was I faced with this, I would get a copy of my current RSS feed from Podango. I would have that saved on a hard drive someplace, so at least you have what they have, if there's no way of exporting that data. Because at least if you have that, many of the services like us can read that file and suck that data in. All we really need to know is where it's at, and we can load it up on a server someplace and just pull from that file, get that RSS feed, and get your content safe. Now, I think the challenge is going to happen to a lot of the folks on Podango, and correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Podango drop a pre-roll on most of those podcasts?
I know that they do dynamically insert content, and so if that's one of the things, I guess what they'll probably, Podango they're not the bad people here, so
right.
So I'm sure that if you have pre-rolls run on your content at this point, and you've got anything going out there, you probably be able to make a call into whoever it is that's doing that for you, have them shut off the pre-rolls, so that when somebody like your new host, if it happens to be Raw Voice or Blueberry or whoever it happens to be,
yep.
I think Libsyn has some of this ability as well, but whoever it is, when they go and suck down all of your data and put it on your new host, you want to make sure that they're sucking down that data without pre-rolls automatically inserted.
Yeah.
And of course, I just want to say that this is a good point to say. One of the things that you'll want to be doing as a podcaster, especially for those of you who are just now getting into podcasting and you only got 7 or 8 episodes, if you're not doing this already, you have to go out and get yourself an external drive. You'll want to create a folder on your desktop or in your My Documents, and every time you upload an episode to your hosting account, you'll also want to keep a copy of that on your actual computer's hard drive, and then you'll want to get some kind of cheap backup software to where it's backing up data onto an external drive. And I would even go so far as to say, if you really like your podcast content, why not even get an online backup service as well to just have some redundancy there.
I've got I got a folder that says 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008. All the episodes are there. They're at S3 Amazon, being as a storage place, just to store, and they're also on external. Because once you create that content, it's that you want to protect it.
Well, that's exactly it. Would you believe I have over 1,250 episodes now sitting here right in front of me?
Yeah, that's that's
my life.
You think about a hard drive go bad, and just oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
Cliff, I guess if anyone has any questions, and you hate, the last thing we want to come across as is being the ambulance chasing mode. It's absolutely not the case, but I guess we want to try to extend a lifeline and try to help as much as possible to the folks that are in trouble. There's lots of other great hosting services out there as well. The folks over at Libsyn do a great job. I don't know who else is really left besides us and them. But just check your options out and figure it out. And if you have any questions, people can definitely email me. My email address is CEO. Again, it's CEO@rawvoice.com. And if I can answer your questions, I got a team member that can, and we'll do whatever we can to help people out. I know people are going to be frantic, and so we're going to try to make it as easy as possible and give them a tutorial. But I'm sure it's going to be after the fact. I'm sure a lot of these people are going to go to their website and say, oh, "Where's my stuff?" And that's when it's going to get even worse.
Yeah, and just so folks know, and people know me, this definitely isn't any sort of ambulance chasing thing. Matter of fact, Todd did not contact me; I contacted him, and just to show you the balance of the coverage here, I'm not a Raw Voice customer. I've been with Libsyn since December of 2005, and Todd's quite aware of that, and he's a great guy, and we're good friends, and we always chat at the podcamps when we run into each other. And that's one of the things I love about Todd and stuff like that is even though I'm not one of his customers, I'm not affiliated with them, and I'm as independent can be out here. He still takes the time to say, "Yeah, I'll talk and let's do it." And it's really the reason why I wanted to have you on, Todd, is because it is for the benefit of the people. I have listeners I know who are personally going to be affected by this. In fact, a lot of those people started looking into Podango back about a year and 3 months ago when I started looking at Podango. And so, I just wanted to let people know what some of those options are and stuff like that. And I saw your Twitter message earlier and saw that you guys are going to be working through the night on some tools. Well, I want to finish things off here on a little bit more of maybe a lighter note. And I know that you and I have both left some comments on Michael W. Gohagen's blog entry where he's a great guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
But and anyway, he's not here to defend himself, but that's okay. Michael, if you're listening, you always have an open chair here. Give me a call, email me. You know how to get a hold of me, and I'll bring you on as well. But boy, he just will not let go of this podcasting is dead thing.
I don't know what it is, to be honest with you. And a lot of people have gotten scared of the word podcasting, and I don't know, Raw Voice, we continue to embrace the word podcasting. We see podcasts continue to grow. We continue to see advertising bias. Matter of fact, I got Q1 2009 advertising insertion orders. Looking over the numbers, they look as good as Q4. We don't see a great increase from over Q4 to Q1 09. But let's be honest. I expected it to go down, and it didn't. So I'm pretty happy that the dollars are there in Q1 or what they were in Q4. So that gave me kind of confidence that, hey, the advertisers still really understand the value of the content and are willing to invest there. The audience members are surely there. I just did this 24-hour podcast. We had 15,800 people that tuned in for that event and over a 24-hour period. So podcasting is not dead. It's just impossible to say that. It may not be exactly what people thought it would be.
Right.
But we had a banner year in 2008. I can't even comprehend what it is everyone thought that they were going to get rich quick. And just like anything else, anything you do in this world, no one gets rich quick. You have to work like a dog.
Yeah.
And if you don't work, it's just like this is, it's a JOB for you. This is a JOB for me. And you live, breathe this 24/7. I live, breathe it 24/7. Cliff, my podcast pays my rent, puts the food on the table. I take no salary from Raw Voice, none. I take no salary whatsoever. So my podcast supports me in Hawaii. So, I walk the walk and talk the talk.
Right.
And podcasting is not dead.
No, that's exactly it. Now, in fairness to Michael, his post is regarding a presentation he did that he calls "Podcasting is Dead." Now, I've listened to that presentation, and I don't even think the title of that presentation was called "Podcasting is Dead." Now, he did reference in that session that podcasting is dead, and he says we need to quit calling ourselves podcasters. I think even our good friend Jason Van Orden says, "Listen, you got to quit calling yourself a podcaster," and it's like that you're only making things worse. And some other people have gotten out there, and it's I guess maybe it's real easy if you want to get some attention brought to yourself. Just tell everybody podcasting's dead, and you get people talking about you. But the truth is his in defense to my comment on his blog, Michael says, hey, my session, if you listen to it, is actually more optimistic than the title actually leads, and I'm totally cool with that. Except for the fact is that he's more, in my mind, he's more of a blogger here on his blog. mgwblog.com. And there are a lot of people who are reading his blog that aren't listening to all his content, all of his audio. Right. And so he comes out, and one of the things he says, 2 years ago, people railed against me for my quote unquote "podcasting is dead" presentation. I'm not sure how many more examples I need to point to until folks realize that I was dead on. You are in the media business. Forget quote unquote podcasting. Wow. That is so 2005. Oh man.
Well, we are in the media business, and
we are.
I like to. The thing I tell podcasters today, and I see this. We have a great stat system, and I'm privy to a lot of information. A lot of people aren't. I get to see really a cross section of data that flows across literally thousands of shows. And here's what I see. And it follows something, and I'm going to bring in one of the superstars out there, Leo Laporte, said in a keynote that I heard him speak at. He says, if you're podcasting, you need to be blogging. If you're blogging, you need to be video casting. If you're video casting, you need to be audio podcasting. If you're audio podcasting, you need, basically, you better be doing a trifecta. You better be doing all three, because some people like to listen, some people like to watch, some people like to read. And unless you're doing all three, you're not effectively hitting all of your audience target. So I think it's important for people that are out there that are creating media, and this is what podcasting really is. And if you really look at the term podcasting, it's more the way the media is delivered. If we really want to get to a technical sense, people have been creating content on the internet for a long time, but if people do a trifecta approach, I think what they'll see is they are in the media business, and they have to produce media, and that means do it in all modes.
Yeah,
it may not hit everything that Michael was trying to say there, but yeah,
I think that sums up what his session said, but it doesn't sum up what his blog entry said.
I see.
You see what that's what I was just taking issue with, and I like I said, I've met Michael as well at various podcasts. Great guy, and of course very much a podcaster himself. So without a doubt, and I don't believe for a second that he really believes podcasting is dead, but I do believe that he feels like the word podcasting and the mechanism is it had too much of a focus on it, and people out there are saying, we just need to start a podcast. And it's like, but you know what? I'm still personally, obviously you're aware of some of the stuff that I do because you see me on Twitter and stuff like that, and we talk at podcasts. But I pretty much see myself as a digital content maker. but I'm very much a podcaster at heart. I mean, my true love is syndicated content via RSS.
Absolutely.
Because that's where I grew my community. And so when, you were talking about target audience, well, my target audience is my community. It's the people who found me. So my target audience isn't outside my own bubble. My target audience are the people who are already listening. And so many people, and that's why I really personally, and I am not opposed to advertising and sponsorship. In fact, I'm still quite open to negotiations if people want to seek me out for that. But I'm no longer seeking them for advertising because, my audience isn't seeking advertising. They're seeking content from me. And what I decided to do a long time ago is that I still survey my audience, but instead of surveying them to learn more about them that might be appealing to a sponsor, I started surveying them to learn more about them and what they want from me. And that's what I started focusing on. And then all of a sudden, my target audience was building relationships with the people who are already listening. And to be honest with you, I've only got the same number of hours in a day that everybody else does. So my goal, and it's a lofty goal at that, is to actually build a relationship one-on-one with as many people who will have a relationship with me one-on-one, and also to extend that relationship to where I'm connecting other people I'm connected to with other people I'm connected to that share those same passions. And so to build this community, and I've already got, even with the small number of subscribers, which are in the tens of thousands, even with the small number of subscribers, I still have more than I still got a big, huge, gigantic harvest field of plugging people in with each other.
Right.
Even without growing. And the truth is that if I continue to build those relationships, even though I am mainly focusing on podcasting, those people are going to eventually get they're what Seth Godin will call raving fans, that they will bring other people to podcasting. True. So that's the approach that I take.
I had during my 24-hour podcast last weekend, I had a discussion with a 14-year-old podcaster that's homeschooled. He does a podcast Monday through Friday. He's out in Utah. And basically, I wanted to have him on because I wanted to find out what he was doing, what he was talking about, and basically just kind of, give him some tips and also to, help connect him to some other people. And we talked quite a bit on the show. I had him on for about 30 minutes, I guess. And I asked him, I said, what is your audience size today? And I said, don't be afraid to tell me what the number is, because the number is really not important. And that kind of took him by surprise. And he says, well, why are you asking me what the number is? I said, well, just, tell me what the number is. He told me. I said, now, I want you to think about this. How many 14-year-olds get the opportunity to address the number of people that you just told me on a daily basis? And he kind of I heard him on the other side of the phone kind of did one of those epiphany moments yeah, you're right. And I said, see, your friends don't reach that many people on a daily basis, but you do. I said, so it's not about it's not about the numbers, it's who you're reaching.
Exactly.
And most CEOs of a company will not reach the number of people, Cliff, that you're going to reach through this show in a single setting or on a weekly basis. They have their little inner staff. So I've always said the numbers of listeners are not important. It's exactly that. It's exactly who you're reaching and how you're reaching them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for me, what I discovered about myself this year is I've decided to pursue this full time as a career, is that I found that my real purpose and goal in life is to encourage and inspire other people to live a more balanced life. And one of the things, I don't even know if you know this about me, but many of my listeners know, is I used to be a pastor. And I used to do that by vocational. I was an insurance agent full time and did ministry in my spare time for many years. And I always dreamed one day of doing full-time ministry, actually leaving my insurance career behind and doing ministry full-time. And well, guess what? I am doing it.
Right.
And I'm doing it in a more effective way than I could have ever. Now, I never did want to be the head pastor of a church, but here's the thing. And I don't say this to brag or anything, but I am literally reaching more people on a daily basis than any pastor out there, with the exception of a couple churches that actually have millions of members to their church.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's just astounding to me. And of course, my main desire is, again, that it's not just to have people listen to me blab all the time, but I want to impact people's lives. I want to inspire them. I want to encourage them. I want to educate them on just about anything as far as leading a more balanced life. And of course, I need help doing that myself. I need accountability and people to remind me that I promised that I was going to work out 5 days a week, and my community is there to do that for me and stuff like that. So yeah, it's all reciprocal, and that's the big thing that I've tried to tell people. They ask, Cliff, what makes it so, how do you grow your audience and stuff like that? It's like you connect with them, learn who they are and stuff like that. And I believe in the method of building community actually means one relationship at a time.
Here in Hawaii, we have this term, and I don't know if you've listened to one of my shows or not before, but here in Hawaii, the term ohana is translated into English as family, but it's when someone says, "You're part of my ohana," here in Hawaii, if a Hawaiian or a local person in Hawaii says, "You're part of my ohana," that is almost like a reach out, grab them, and kiss them, and hug them, and brother, sister, auntie, uncle type of ohana. It's that type of a tight relationship. And the way I approach my audience is as much the same you do, is that every one of the listeners that listen to my audience I consider part of my ohana. So as I'm addressing or talking or, doing my dissertation during my show, I always keep in mind that if there were 25 people in the room here with me, we would be talking story, and it would be kind of the Hawaiian ohana type of way. And so that's the approach I've always had, and it's the same thing, just a little in the Hawaiian kind of spirit way. It is spiritual, yet at the same time it's just deep rooted, deep thing. And I tried to help kind of explain that to people, but unless you come to Hawaii and experience someone giving you a good old big old Hawaiian hug and a big kiss on the cheek, it's I'm not saying we don't do that in the lower 48 or outside of Hawaii as well, but it's just kind of special. The way the Hawaiians do it, and I've tried to embrace that in my personal podcast, and also the way we do business too. So we try to do that that's one of the reasons why when we started the company that we always wanted to make the podcasters first, and had this saying, podcasters do the work, podcasters get paid. And that that may not be from a pure financial point, but it's again going along the lines that you're talking about, spiritual, adding the different values to reaching their audiences, giving them the tools that they need and so forth. And I think it's part of the reasons why today we've never had to take any venture capital. We've been able to be profitable. Really from not necessarily day one, but this is, we're a profitable company right now. And, even if all income dried up tomorrow, and we are a company that's in business to make money, and although money is not the most important thing, we could go 18 months easily with, if the cash reserves dried up or if the income dried up tomorrow. And I feel bad for the folks over there at Podango. My heart really goes out to them. So I don't know if there's anything I can do for any of your audience members, Cliff, or anything I can do for you. Feel free to holler anytime, and all we can do is just hope and pray that they come to a good decision over there at Podango, and hopefully they find the tools they need to stay in business. And there's plenty of time to have competition later. Right now it's about building companies. I hope they find a way to keep it together.
Absolutely. Well, Todd, thank you very much for coming on the show. And folks, thank you for tuning into an especially long episode of the podcast Answer Man. Just real quickly want to remind you that my CES coverage is coming up here just over a week from now. I will be heading to Vegas and bringing you content. It'll be exclusively at podcastanswerman.com. And so I encourage you to stay tuned to Podcast Answer Man from January 7th through the 11th. And of course, plenty of content probably still being released beyond that date when I get back into town and can process a little bit more of it. Also want to remind everybody on January 31st, all day, Wednesday, starting at 12:01 a.m., ending at the new year, basically when the ball drops on Times Square, we will be recording live on the internet, gspn.tv/live, 24-hour podcast marathon, celebrating 3 years of podcasting here at gspn.tv, and also my first full year podcasting as a career. So I hope you guys will be able to join us. Todd, thank you again for joining me for this episode. And again, where can people email you if they wanted to ask you any questions about Raw Voice?
Again, thanks, Cliff. They can find me at ceo@rawvoice.com or come over to rawvoice.com, or you just join one of our communities and, send us a contact email as well.
Okay, very good. And that's rawvoice.com.
Right.
All right. Thank you very much. You guys have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.